Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today we're going to be talking about Ironheart. I mean, it's the new Marvel thing out, and we've already talked about the Fantastic Four trailer that dropped this week as well. So I want to talk about, actually not about Ironheart, but in the show I want to talk about Parker Robbins the Hood. Because I think there's a few interesting details, Easter eggs that have been dropped, and now you'll probably be able to catch them on New Rockstar's breakdown video or Screen Crush's breakdown video. But I want to talk about them, kind of how they pertain to Parker Robbins potentially. Because I think there's an interesting element going on. First off, how did he get the hood? I think that's probably the biggest question. Was it some deal with the devil, or was it something else? And I tend to think that it was some kind of a deal with the devil, but I think, and they keep referring to this, there's a specific reason why he's going after these targets, and we'll get into that here in a second. But I think that these targets also potentially made a deal with the devil, and are either now kind of maybe stealing Parker's thunder from what he feels like it should be, or it could just be that he doesn't want to kind of share power, or I think that there's a more personal reason for it. But let's talk about the Mephisto of it all too before we kind of get into the theory that's been brewing in my head for Parker and for the Hood. Mephisto, I think it is very Mephisto-esque possibility for this show. I would give it like a 90% chance at this point that we get Mephisto, or if it's not Mephisto, it would have to be some other demon, devil, but I don't know who else that would be in Marvel. Because it seems like it's given Parker something that he wanted. With the Hood, it gives him the chance to fight back and stand up against these people. But it's not just that. I mean, he says he's taking them down because, well, they're not good people. But he's always having him sign deals, trying to get his way into the organizations. And I think that the show has, well, one, hinted for sure that we're getting a devil, plenty of Faust posters, the play, and, well, if you're familiar with that, Faust makes a deal with the devil. But also there's a billboard, and there's a billboard for, this is one of the other corporations. This is actually a corporation that helped fund Tunnel and Heirloom, and this organization is also the one who has its CEO talking on the news when Parker is listening to the news before deciding, yes, I'm going after helium. And I think there's a heirloom, not helium, heirloom. But I think there's a really strong reason for this, because in the poster, in the billboard, you see the last name of the CEO, the founder of the company, and you see that it is Robbins. I think that we're going to find out that the CEO of this organization is Parker Robbins' father. But he made a deal. And making a deal with a devil, it always costs you something. The great example of this from Marvel Comics is what we kind of saw adapted loosely in Spider-Man No Way Home. But the idea is Aunt May is dead. She's been shot, I believe, in the comics. But yeah, she isn't there, and it is hurting Peter and MJ. They feel the loss, and Mephisto comes to them as this child that they don't have, but basically offering the possibility of getting back what they had. And the reason for this is really comic book kind of related. Marvel was very much of the mindset, and still is, like the main MCU Peter Parker can't be married. If there's a married Peter Parker, it's always an alternate universe one. And so they agree to make this deal. They make this deal, but it costs them their relationship. They had dated. That's kind of the rewrite of the universe. They had dated at some point in time before, but they hadn't been married. Things had ended. And so it, for them, was always kind of the, oh, we'll find a way to come back. But I think for Parker Robbins' father, he was so blinded by greed that he was willing to give up his family. That Parker knows that he's what probably seems like now the illegitimate son of the CEO, but someone who has no connection. And I'm assuming, based off of what we've seen from Parker Robbins, that he doesn't have his mother anymore. And so he is going to be now on this revenge tour. And his revenge tour isn't just going after his father and that company, but he is trying to, I would say, trying to take a hostile takeover, potentially business-wise, of his father's company by becoming a majority or becoming a stakeholder in Tunnel, in Heirloom. His idea is, now I can worm my way in, I can gain the money that I should have had, and like there's nothing you can do about it to stop me. And that's why he always wants them to sign the contracts. But also, then, I think his deal is not only that with Mephisto, I think it is that he now is going to be, how should I put it? He's getting what he wants. He's getting what he wants in that he's going to go after his father's corporation next. And that will kind of be the blackmail there of, well, you ignored the fact you had a son. What is it going to look like when I say, hey, I'm your son? What are people going to think when I tell the story of, oh, yeah, you abandoned my mother. She died poor, broken, and now you're rich. You didn't spare anything for us, sort of situation. And he's going to try and take over the company. He'll release that information. He'll threaten to release it. I suspect that he's not going to be able to hold himself back from killing his father. That's where I think Parker Robbins' story was headed. And I think that there was probably another reason for it too. It's like, a deal with the devil is never good. So Mephisto or whomever probably kept it in Parker's mind that, yeah, that is my father. That's my father. That's the life I should be having, to really egg him on to this point. Because a deal with the devil, sure, there's the catch. There was the catch of giving up something very important to the father. I do think probably a wife and kid, but made that decision out of greed, and now is living this lavish life, and maybe doesn't feel remorse for it, or doesn't really understand what he's lost. And so Mephisto is going to find and present an offer to a down on their luck kid and be like, hey, this man's this man's your father. I can help you get revenge. I can help you be rich. I can help you get what you really want in your heart of hearts. And with that, Parker leans into it. And why does Mephisto want to do that? Because it was too much of a good thing. Like, Mephisto doesn't want the CEO to be Parker Robbins' father, to be happy about what he has. And this man seems confident that he's going to be able to handle the problem based off of what we saw on the news. And so I really think that there's some very interesting things they can do and interesting elements for motivation. And I think that's going to be the challenge for Riri as well going forward too, is how is she going to deal with a villain who has maybe some sympathetic leanings towards what he's doing, but also is very just villainous. He has no problems killing. And that's something that she does have her issues with. But that's my theory for why Parker Robbins, the Hood, made his deal, and why a deal was even offered in the first place. Let me know if you think, does this seem reasonable at all? Can they explain this story in really the next 2 episodes before whatever that final showdown is? Let me know that down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this content, please give the video a thumbs up. You can also check out our Ironheart preview episode of the podcast here on YouTube, and we'll be doing our review and reaction, impression, thoughts around the show coming up on this next episode. You can find the podcast here on YouTube. Click onto the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell to know when new videos come out, and then click on the podcast tab. We appreciate everybody who is already checking out all the videos that we're placing out. Or, if you like to get your podcasts elsewhere, you can search for 10 Minute Marvel wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, we will see you next time.